Noah Bennett stepped off the bus, the warm summer air enveloping him like a familiar blanket. The small town of Maplewood was a stark contrast to the bustling city he had left behind. Here, the streets were lined with quaint houses, and the scent of freshly cut grass mingled with the sweet aroma of blooming wildflowers. He took a deep breath, feeling a sense of freedom wash over him as he adjusted the strap of his backpack. As he walked towards his best friend Liam Parker's family farm, memories flooded back from their childhood. Countless summers spent running through fields, climbing trees, and getting into mischief seemed like just yesterday. But this summer felt different. Noah could sense an undercurrent of change in the air. When he reached the Parker farm, he marveled at the sprawling landscape. The golden fields stretched endlessly under the bright blue sky, dotted with patches of vibrant green where crops were just beginning to grow. The rustic farmhouse stood proudly at the end of a long dirt driveway, its weathered wood and white trim giving it a timeless charm. Liam was waiting for him on the porch, his smile wide and inviting. "Noah, you made it," he exclaimed, rushing down the steps to pull Noah into a bear hug. "I've missed you, man. This summer is going to be epic." Noah laughed, feeling instantly at home. "I missed you too. It's good to be back." They exchanged stories about their lives since they last met, Liam's adventures on the farm and Noah's experiences in college. As they settled into their routine, Noah couldn't help but notice Liam's father, Daniel Parker. In his mid-40s, Daniel was ruggedly handsome with an easygoing demeanor that put everyone at ease. He moved with a quiet strength that commanded respect but also invited friendship. Noah had always admired Daniel. He was like a second father to him during those formative years. One evening, while helping Daniel repair a fence in the fading light of dusk, Noah felt an unexpected tension in the air. They worked side by side in comfortable silence until Daniel broke it with a casual question. "How's college treating you?" "It's great," Noah replied, focusing on the task at hand but acutely aware of Daniel's presence beside him. "A lot different than high school, that's for sure." Daniel chuckled softly. "You always were one for adventure. Just like your sister." Noah smiled at the mention of Mia, his younger sister who often tagged along on his adventures. "Yeah, she's been wanting to come out here too." As they continued working, Noah caught glimpses of Daniel's strong hands and weathered face illuminated by the setting sun. There was something about him that stirred feelings Noah didn't fully understand yet, an attraction that felt both exciting and confusing. Later that night, after dinner with Liam and Mia, Noah found himself alone on the porch under a blanket of stars. The night was peaceful, crickets chirped in harmony while fireflies danced around him like tiny lanterns in the dark. He pulled out his camera and began snapping pictures of the serene landscape, trying to capture the magic of this moment. Suddenly, he heard footsteps behind him. Turning around, he saw Daniel approaching with a gentle smile. "Mind if I join you?" he asked. "Not at all," Noah replied, feeling his heart race slightly. They sat together in silence for a while, looking up at the stars. "It's beautiful out here," Daniel said softly. "Yeah," Noah agreed, glancing sideways at Daniel. There was something in his voice that made Noah feel vulnerable yet safe at the same time. "Sometimes I forget how peaceful it can be," Daniel continued. "Life gets busy on the farm." Noah nodded, sensing an unspoken bond forming between them as they shared this quiet moment under the vast sky. As they talked about everything and nothing, life on the farm, dreams for the future, Noah felt an undeniable connection growing between them. It was more than just friendship, it was something deeper that he couldn't quite put into words. But just as quickly as it blossomed, doubt crept in. What would Liam think? What would it mean for their friendship? As those thoughts swirled in his mind, Noah knew this summer would be anything but ordinary. The next morning, the sun rose over the Parker farm, casting a golden hue across the fields. Noah awoke to the sound of roosters crowing and the gentle rustle of leaves outside his window. He stretched, feeling the warmth of the sun on his skin, and smiled at the thought of another day filled with adventure. After breakfast, Liam suggested they explore the property. "You've got to see the old barn," he said, his eyes sparkling with excitement. "It's like something out of a movie." Noah grabbed his camera, eager to capture every moment. As they walked, Liam recounted stories of their childhood escapades, how they had once tried to build a treehouse and ended up with a pile of broken wood instead. Noah laughed at the memories, feeling grateful for this time together. When they reached the barn, Noah was taken aback by its rustic charm. The wooden structure stood tall, weathered by years of sun and rain. Vines climbed its walls, and wildflowers bloomed around its base, creating a picturesque scene that felt straight out of a painting. "Let's check it out," Liam exclaimed, pushing open the creaky door. Inside, shafts of light streamed through cracks in the wood, illuminating dust motes floating lazily in the air. Old farming equipment lay scattered about, rusty tools and forgotten memories. As they explored, Noah noticed an old photograph pinned to a wall, a family portrait of Liam with Daniel and his late wife. The image captured a moment frozen in time, smiles all around, happiness radiating from their faces. A pang of sadness washed over Noah as he thought about how much Daniel had sacrificed since losing his wife. "Hey," Liam said, noticing Noah's contemplative expression. "You okay?" "Yeah," Noah replied quickly, forcing a smile. "Just thinking about how much this place means to your dad." Liam nodded, understanding. "He loves it here. It's been tough for him since Mom passed." Noah felt a surge of empathy for Daniel. He admired how hard Daniel worked to keep everything running smoothly while also being there for Liam. It was clear that their bond was strong. They leaned on each other in ways that transcended words. After their exploration of the barn, they decided to help Daniel with chores around the farm. They spent hours feeding animals and tending to crops under the warm sun. The physical labor felt good. It grounded Noah and allowed him to forget about the confusing feelings swirling in his heart. During lunch, they gathered at a picnic table outside, enjoying sandwiches and lemonade while laughter echoed around them. Mia joined them, her youthful energy infectious as she shared stories from her own adventures. As they finished eating, Daniel approached with an easy smile. "You boys ready for some real work?" he asked playfully. "Always," Liam replied enthusiastically. Daniel led them to a section of the farm that needed clearing, a patch overgrown with weeds and brambles. As they worked side by side, Noah couldn't help but steal glances at Daniel when he thought no one was looking. There was something magnetic about him, the way he carried himself with confidence and grace even while doing hard labor. At one point, Daniel caught Noah's gaze and held it for a moment longer than necessary. A spark ignited between them. It was electric yet fleeting as Liam called out from across the field. "Hey, you two lovebirds, get back to work," Liam teased, laughing as he tossed a handful of weeds into a pile. Noah felt heat rise to his cheeks but couldn't help but smile at Liam's playful banter. As they continued working, he found himself lost in thought again, wondering what it would be like to explore this connection with Daniel further. Later that evening, after dinner, Noah found himself wandering back to the barn alone. The sun had set, leaving behind a canvas of stars twinkling overhead. He felt drawn to this place, the memories it held and the emotions it stirred within him. Just as he stepped inside, he heard footsteps behind him and turned to find Daniel entering too. "I thought I might find you here," Daniel said softly. "I love this place," Noah admitted, glancing around at the familiar surroundings. Daniel smiled warmly. "It has its own magic." They stood in comfortable silence for a moment before Noah gathered his courage. "Can I ask you something?" he said hesitantly. "Of course," Daniel replied, his expression open and inviting. "What do you miss most about, well, everything?" Noah asked carefully. Daniel's gaze turned thoughtful as he considered the question. "I miss my wife's laughter," he said finally. "And I miss having someone to share this life with." Noah felt his heart race at Daniel's vulnerability. It was as if they were peeling back layers of their lives together, revealing truths that had long been buried beneath the surface. "I know it's not easy," Noah said gently. "But you're doing an amazing job." Daniel looked at him with gratitude in his eyes. "Thank you for saying that." In that moment, everything shifted between them, an unspoken understanding blossomed in the air around them. Noah took a small step closer, their proximity felt charged with possibility. But just then, Liam's voice echoed from outside. "Noah, come help me with something." Noah sighed reluctantly but turned back toward Daniel with a smile that held promise for what was yet to come. As he walked away from the barn that night, Noah knew deep down that this summer would change everything, not just for him but for all three of them. The following evening, the sun dipped low on the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink. Noah stood on the porch, camera in hand, capturing the breathtaking view of the Parker farm. The fields stretched out like a patchwork quilt, each section a different shade of green and gold. He felt a sense of peace wash over him as he focused on the beauty surrounding him. Liam joined him, plopping down on the steps with a sigh. "What a day. I think we cleared half the farm," he said, wiping sweat from his brow. "I could use a break." "Same here," Noah replied, lowering his camera. "But it was good to get our hands dirty. Let's have a bonfire tonight," Liam suggested, his eyes lighting up with excitement. "We can roast marshmallows and tell ghost stories." Noah grinned at the thought. "That sounds perfect." As night fell, they gathered firewood and set up a small bonfire in a clearing near the barn. The air was warm and fragrant with the scent of pine and earth. Mia arrived with a bag of marshmallows, chocolate bars, and graham crackers, her enthusiasm infectious. "Who's ready for s'mores?" she called out, bouncing on her heels. Daniel emerged from the house carrying a couple of folding chairs. "I hope you kids are ready to share some scary stories," he said with a playful grin. The fire crackled to life as they settled around it, flames dancing and casting flickering shadows on their faces. Noah felt a thrill of anticipation as he glanced at Daniel sitting across from him. The warmth of the fire mirrored the warmth he felt inside whenever Daniel was near. Liam started off with a classic ghost story, his voice low and dramatic as he recounted tales of haunted houses and restless spirits. Mia listened wide-eyed, occasionally gasping at the suspenseful moments. Noah chuckled at their reactions but couldn't shake the feeling that something deeper was brewing beneath the surface. When it was Daniel's turn to share a story, he spoke about an old legend tied to their farm, a tale of a lost love that haunted the fields under the light of the full moon. His voice was rich and soothing, drawing everyone in as he painted vivid images with his words. Noah found himself captivated not just by the story but by Daniel himself, the way his eyes sparkled in the firelight, how his passion for storytelling brought life to every word. It was in that moment that Noah realized how much he admired this man, not just as a father figure but as someone who stirred feelings within him that he had never fully acknowledged. As Daniel finished his story, there was a moment of silence before Liam broke it with laughter. Okay, who's next?" he said, clearly eager to keep the fun going. Noah hesitated for a moment before speaking up. "I have one," he said slowly. "But it's not really scary." Everyone turned their attention to him, curiosity piqued. "It's more about love," Noah continued, feeling slightly vulnerable as he shared his thoughts. "There's this legend about two souls destined to find each other no matter what obstacles stand in their way." Daniel's gaze locked onto Noah's, an intensity in his eyes that made Noah's heart race. The air around them felt charged with unspoken words and emotions. Mia leaned forward eagerly. "What happens next?" she asked. Noah took a deep breath and wove his tale, about how love could transcend time and space, how it could heal wounds and bring people together even when they were apart. As he spoke, he couldn't help but feel that this story mirrored his own feelings for Daniel. When he finished, there was another moment of silence before Liam broke it again with a teasing grin. "Wow, that was deep. Are you sure you're not writing poetry now?" Noah laughed but felt slightly embarrassed under Liam's playful scrutiny. "Just sharing what I feel," he replied lightly. As they continued roasting marshmallows and enjoying s'mores under the stars, Noah caught Daniel watching him more than once, his expression thoughtful yet warm. Each glance sent butterflies fluttering in Noah's stomach. Eventually, as laughter filled the air and stories flowed freely among them, Mia excused herself to head inside for bed. Liam followed shortly after, leaving Noah and Daniel alone by the fire. The crackling flames created an intimate atmosphere as they sat side by side in comfortable silence for a moment. Noah felt both nervous and exhilarated. This was an opportunity for honesty that he couldn't let slip away. "Can I ask you something?" Noah ventured cautiously. "Of course," Daniel replied softly, turning to face him fully. "What do you think about love? About finding someone who makes you feel different?" Noah's heart raced as he spoke, afraid yet hopeful for Daniel's response. Daniel paused for a moment before answering. "I think love is one of the most powerful forces we have," he said thoughtfully. "It can change everything, how we see ourselves and how we see others." Noah nodded slowly, feeling encouraged by Daniel's words. "Do you believe it can happen again? After loss?" Daniel looked at him intently. There was something almost vulnerable in his gaze, as if Noah had touched on a deep truth within him. "I want to believe that," he admitted quietly. In that moment of honesty between them, Noah felt an overwhelming urge to bridge the gap that had grown between them over recent days, the gap filled with unspoken words and hidden feelings. Before he could second-guess himself, Noah leaned closer and whispered softly, "I think I might feel something for you." Daniel's breath caught in his throat as their eyes met, an electric connection igniting between them like the flames before them. For what felt like an eternity, they held each other's gaze until Daniel finally spoke. "I've felt it too," he confessed softly. Noah's heart raced at those words, they hung in the air like magic between them. Just then, Liam reappeared from inside with an armful of blankets and snacks. "Hey, what did I miss?" Liam called out cheerfully. Noah pulled back quickly, feeling both exhilarated and flustered as reality crashed back into focus. He exchanged a glance with Daniel, one filled with promise but also uncertainty about what lay ahead. As laughter erupted once more around the fire pit, Noah knew this summer would be unlike any other, full of challenges but also brimming with possibilities for love and connection that would change everything forever. The next day dawned bright and clear, the sun spilling golden light across the Parker farm. Noah awoke with a sense of anticipation thrumming in his chest. Last night's conversation with Daniel lingered in his mind, a sweet echo of possibility that he couldn't shake off. He dressed quickly, eager to embrace whatever the day might hold. After breakfast, Liam suggested they go fishing at the nearby pond. "It'll be fun, just like old times," he said, his enthusiasm infectious. Noah agreed, hoping the outing would provide a distraction from the whirlwind of emotions swirling within him. They packed a cooler with sandwiches and drinks and set off toward the pond, laughter filling the air as they reminisced about their childhood adventures. The path was lined with wildflowers, their colors vibrant against the lush greenery. Noah felt lighter with each step, grateful for the bond he shared with Liam. When they reached the pond, it was as beautiful as Noah remembered. The water shimmered under the sun, surrounded by tall trees that provided shade and a sense of tranquility. They set up their fishing gear and settled onto the grassy bank, casting their lines into the water. As they waited for a bite, Noah found himself lost in thought again. He couldn't help but wonder what Daniel was doing at that moment, if he was thinking about their conversation from last night. The way Daniel had looked at him, the warmth in his eyes, it made Noah's heart race just thinking about it. "Earth to Noah," Liam called out, snapping him back to reality. "You're not even paying attention to your line." Noah chuckled sheepishly and reeled in his line to check for bait. "Sorry. Just lost in thought." Liam raised an eyebrow knowingly. "You've been doing that a lot lately. What's going on with you?" Noah hesitated, unsure if he should share his feelings about Daniel with Liam. But he trusted his best friend, they had always been open with each other. "It's just, I think I'm starting to feel something for your dad," he admitted carefully. Liam blinked in surprise, clearly taken aback by Noah's revelation. "My dad? Seriously?" His tone was a mix of disbelief and curiosity. "Yeah," Noah said, feeling vulnerable but relieved to have said it out loud. "I know it's complicated, but there's something between us." Liam processed this information slowly, his expression shifting from shock to contemplation. "I mean, I can see why you'd feel that way. He's a great guy," he finally said, though there was an edge of protectiveness in his voice. "I don't want to ruin anything between us," Noah added quickly. "I care about you and your family." Liam sighed and leaned back on his elbows, looking up at the sky. "You know my dad has been through a lot since Mom died. I just don't want him to get hurt again." "I get that," Noah replied earnestly. "But I think he deserves happiness too." Liam nodded slowly, his expression softening as he considered Noah's words. "Just be careful, okay? I don't want things to get weird between us." "Of course," Noah promised, feeling a mixture of relief and anxiety wash over him. After a few hours of fishing, and only catching a couple of small fish, they decided to head back to the farm for lunch. As they walked along the path, Noah felt lighter somehow, sharing his feelings had lifted a weight off his shoulders. Later that afternoon, while Liam went inside to grab drinks, Noah found himself wandering toward the barn again. The familiar scent of hay and wood greeted him as he entered, bringing back memories of laughter and hard work shared within these walls. To his surprise, Daniel was already there, organizing some tools on a shelf. He looked up and smiled when he saw Noah enter. "Hey there, want to give me a hand?" "Sure," Noah replied eagerly, stepping closer. As they worked side by side in comfortable silence, Noah couldn't help but steal glances at Daniel when he thought he wasn't looking. There was something so captivating about him, the way he moved with confidence and purpose. After a while, Daniel paused and turned to face Noah directly. "How was fishing?" he asked casually. "Not too great," Noah admitted with a chuckle. "But we had fun anyway." Daniel nodded thoughtfully before continuing to organize tools. "That's what matters most, spending time together." Noah felt emboldened by Daniel's words. They resonated deeply within him as if they were speaking directly to the connection forming between them. "I've been thinking about what we talked about the other night," he said cautiously. Daniel looked up from his task, interest peaked in his eyes. "Oh, yeah," Noah continued, heart racing as he spoke. "About love and finding someone who makes you feel different." He took a breath before adding softly, "I really like you." The air grew thick with anticipation as Daniel met Noah's gaze, his expression unreadable for a moment before softening into something more vulnerable. "I like you too," Daniel confessed quietly. Noah felt an electric thrill course through him at those words, an affirmation that everything he had been feeling was reciprocated. But just as the moment felt poised on the edge of something beautiful, Liam's voice echoed from outside, "Dad. Can you help me with something?" Noah pulled back slightly, feeling both exhilarated and frustrated by the interruption. Daniel smiled gently at him before turning toward the door. "Let's go see what he needs," Daniel said softly. As they stepped outside together into the warm afternoon sun, Noah felt hope blooming within him, a promise of what could be between them if they dared to explore it further. The rest of the day passed in a blur of activity as they helped Liam with various chores around the farm, each moment filled with laughter and camaraderie that strengthened their bond as friends and hinted at something deeper beneath the surface. As night fell once more over Maplewood, Noah lay awake in bed reflecting on everything that had transpired, the conversations shared and feelings unveiled, and knew that this summer was just beginning to unfold its magic. The following morning, Noah awoke to the sound of birds chirping outside his window. The sunlight streamed in, illuminating the room and filling him with a sense of optimism. Today felt different, the air was thick with unspoken possibilities. He couldn't shake the memory of last night's conversation with Daniel, nor could he ignore the flutter of excitement that accompanied it. After breakfast, Noah found Liam sitting on the porch, scrolling through his phone. "Hey, you ready for another day of farm adventures?" Liam asked, looking up and grinning. "Absolutely," Noah replied, trying to match Liam's enthusiasm. But inside, he felt a mix of anticipation and anxiety. He knew they needed to talk about what had been happening between him and Daniel, but he wasn't sure how to approach it. They spent the morning working in the fields, planting seeds and tending to the crops. The sun beat down on them, but the work was satisfying. As they labored side by side, Noah's mind wandered to Daniel, his warm smile and the way his eyes lit up when he talked about the farm. He felt a pull toward him that was impossible to ignore. During a break, they sat under a large oak tree, enjoying sandwiches and lemonade. Noah took a deep breath, deciding it was time to address the elephant in the room. "Liam," he began cautiously, "can we talk about everything?" Liam looked at him with curiosity but also a hint of concern. "Yeah, sure. What's on your mind?" Noah hesitated for a moment before continuing. "I know things have been a bit different between us since I told you how I feel about your dad." Liam nodded slowly, his expression serious. "I've noticed it too. It's a lot to process. I don't want this to come between us," Noah said earnestly. "You're my best friend, and I care about you." "I know," Liam replied, his tone softening. "It's just hard for me to wrap my head around it. My dad is, well, my dad." "I get that," Noah said quickly. "But I really like him, Liam. I think there's something special between us." Liam sighed and leaned back against the tree trunk. "I guess I just worry about how this could affect our friendship, and my relationship with my dad." "I promise I'll be careful," Noah assured him. "I don't want to hurt either of you." Liam took a moment to consider Noah's words before nodding slowly. "Okay. Just keep me in the loop about what's going on." "Of course," Noah replied gratefully. As they finished their lunch, Noah felt a weight lift off his shoulders. He had been afraid that discussing his feelings would create a rift between them, but Liam's understanding reassured him. After lunch, they decided to help Daniel with some repairs around the barn. As they worked together, Lifting heavy beams and hammering nails, Noah couldn't help but steal glances at Daniel whenever he thought no one was looking. Each time their eyes met, an electric current seemed to flow between them. Later in the afternoon, while Liam went inside to grab more tools, Noah found himself alone with Daniel in the barn. The air was thick with anticipation as they stood side by side, working on a project together. "Hey," Daniel said casually as he adjusted his grip on a tool. "How are you doing?" "I'm good," Noah replied, trying to keep his voice steady despite the butterflies in his stomach. "Just busy with chores." Daniel paused for a moment before continuing. "I've been thinking about what we talked about the other night." Noah's heart raced at those words. It felt like an invitation to delve deeper into their connection. "Me too," he admitted softly. Daniel turned to face him fully, an intensity in his gaze that made Noah's breath catch in his throat. "I want you to know that I care about you, more than I expected." Noah felt warmth spread through him at Daniel's confession. It was everything he had hoped for and more. "I care about you too," he replied earnestly. Just then, Liam returned with an armful of supplies and interrupted their moment. "What are you two whispering about?" he asked playfully. Noah quickly stepped back and busied himself with organizing tools on a nearby shelf while Daniel chuckled lightly at Liam's teasing. "Just talking shop," Daniel said easily. As they continued working together throughout the afternoon, Noah felt the tension between him and Daniel simmering just below the surface, an unspoken agreement that something beautiful was blossoming between them. That evening after dinner, they gathered around the fire pit once more, this time under a sky full of stars twinkling like diamonds against velvet darkness. The atmosphere was relaxed yet charged with an undercurrent of excitement. Mia joined them again, her laughter ringing out as she recounted stories from her day at school while roasting marshmallows over the fire. But as she chatted away happily, Noah found himself stealing glances at Daniel again, the way he leaned back comfortably in his chair or how he smiled when Mia made a joke. At one point during Mia's storytelling, their eyes met across the fire, a moment that felt suspended in time as everything else faded away around them. Noah felt emboldened by their shared connection. This was what he had been waiting for, the chance to explore what lay beneath their friendship. When Mia finally excused herself for bed and left them alone again by the firelight, Noah took a deep breath and turned toward Daniel. "Can we talk?" he asked softly. "Of course," Daniel replied, his expression open and inviting. Noah hesitated for just a moment before plunging forward into honesty once more. "I really want to see where this goes between us." Daniel looked thoughtful for a moment before nodding slowly. "I do too," he said quietly but firmly. As they sat together under the stars, firelight flickering across their faces, Noah felt hope blooming within him like never before. They were standing on the edge of something beautiful. All it would take was one step forward into uncharted territory. The morning sun rose over the Parker farm, casting a warm glow that filled Noah's room. He lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying the events of the previous night in his mind. The conversation with Daniel had felt like a turning point, a moment when everything shifted into focus. He could hardly believe how close they had come to acknowledging their feelings for each other. After breakfast, Noah found himself wandering outside, drawn to the familiar sights and sounds of the farm. The air was fresh and crisp, filled with the scent of blooming wildflowers and freshly tilled earth. As he walked through the fields, he couldn't shake the feeling of anticipation that hung in the air. Liam joined him shortly after, his usual cheerful demeanor brightening the morning. "Hey, what's on your mind?" he asked, noticing Noah's distracted expression. "I'm just thinking about everything," Noah replied, trying to keep his tone light. Liam raised an eyebrow but didn't press further. Instead, he suggested they check on Daniel and see if he needed help with any chores. Noah agreed, grateful for the distraction. When they reached the barn, they found Daniel working on a tractor that had seen better days. He looked up as they approached, a smile breaking across his face. "Morning, you two. Ready to get your hands dirty?" "Always," Liam responded enthusiastically. Noah felt a thrill at Daniel's smile. It was warm and inviting, making him feel at home. They spent the morning working side by side, laughter and camaraderie filling the air as they tackled various tasks around the barn. As they worked, Noah caught Daniel's eye more than once. Each glance felt charged with unspoken words, the promise of what could be if they dared to take that next step together. It was both exhilarating and terrifying. During a break for lunch, they gathered around a picnic table outside. The sun shone brightly overhead as they shared sandwiches and stories. Noah felt a sense of belonging wash over him. This was where he wanted to be, surrounded by people he cared about. After lunch, as Liam headed inside to grab some drinks, Noah seized the opportunity to speak with Daniel alone. His heart raced as he approached him near the barn door. "Can we talk?" Noah asked, his voice steady despite the fluttering in his chest. "Of course," Daniel replied, turning to face him fully. Noah took a deep breath. "About us, I really want to explore this connection we have." Daniel's expression softened as he nodded slowly. "I want that too," he said quietly. "But I also want to make sure we're doing this right." "What do you mean?" Noah asked, feeling a mix of hope and apprehension. "I mean, we need to consider how this might affect our lives. Your friendship with Liam and my relationship with him as his father," Daniel explained thoughtfully. "I don't want to complicate things." Noah understood where Daniel was coming from. It was a valid concern. But he also felt an undeniable pull toward him, a connection that felt too strong to ignore. "I think we can navigate it together," Noah said earnestly. "We just need to be honest with each other and with Liam." Daniel looked at him for a long moment before finally nodding. "You're right. We should talk to Liam about this." The thought made Noah's heart race. It was one thing to acknowledge their feelings privately but another entirely to bring Liam into the conversation. Yet he knew it was necessary for all three of them to move forward honestly. Just then, Liam returned with drinks in hand and an eager smile on his face. "What are you two plotting?" he asked playfully. Noah exchanged a glance with Daniel before taking a deep breath. "Actually, we wanted to talk to you about something important." Liam's expression shifted from playful curiosity to serious concern as he set down the drinks and focused on them intently. "Okay, what's up?" Noah felt his heart pound in his chest as he began speaking again. "It's about me and your dad." Liam's eyes widened slightly but remained attentive as Noah continued. "We've developed feelings for each other, feelings that go beyond friendship." There was a moment of silence as Liam processed this information. Noah held his breath, unsure of how his friend would react. Finally, Liam spoke slowly, choosing his words carefully. I didn't see that coming," he admitted honestly. "We didn't either," Daniel added gently. "But we care about each other and wanted you to know." Liam looked between them, his expression thoughtful yet conflicted. "I guess I just need time to process this," he said finally. "That's completely okay," Noah reassured him quickly. "We don't want you to feel pressured or uncomfortable." Liam nodded slowly but still seemed lost in thought as he processed everything happening around him. "Just know that our friendship is important to me," Liam said after a moment of silence. "And I don't want anything to change that." "It won't," Daniel promised firmly. "We'll make sure of it." As they continued talking about their feelings and setting boundaries for their relationships moving forward, Noah felt relief wash over him. This conversation had been necessary for all three of them. The rest of the day passed in a blur of activity as they worked together on various tasks around the farm, each moment filled with laughter and camaraderie that strengthened their bond while hinting at something deeper beneath the surface. As night fell once more over Maplewood, Noah lay awake in bed reflecting on everything that had transpired, the conversations shared and feelings unveiled, and knew that this summer had changed everything, not just for him but for all three of them. With hope blooming within him like never before, Noah realized that perhaps love could indeed heal wounds and bring people together in ways he had never imagined possible.